My name is Caitlin Lightfoot, and this is my final project for MUSI 4393, the methodology and pedagogy of practicing at Acadia University. In this video, I'm going to be giving you my practice tips, my top practice tips that I've learned in this course through lectures, guest speakers, my own experience, as well as the 3 readings that we had for the course. You can find full citations in the description. Let's jump right into it. So, my very first practice tip is taken from the Little Book of Talent. And this is something we did a lot in class. It's breaking things into chunks. So, chunking something is essentially breaking it into the smallest possible unit that you can practice. So, let's say you had a bar of music. It's in 4/4. Each beat has 2 eighth notes. So you get a total of 8 eighth notes in a bar. Maybe just take that first beat and practice the 1 and, going from those 2 different notes. Breaking it up into a very, very small chunk, getting it perfect before moving on to the next thing. An example that I might do, so let's just say maybe I'm learning an F bar chord. Now this is something I already know, but I'm going to break it down in a chunk form. So the first thing I would do is locate the fret where my F would be, since I'm using an E major shape. And I'd take my bar finger, my first finger, and I would just practice getting it there. I could just practice the chord like that. And then, when I'm getting better at that, when I've got that chunk perfect, I can take my second finger, put it on the second fret, put it on the G string, and get that note within the F major bar chord. Practice getting it at the front of the fret, practice proper technique, tip of the finger, squeezing properly with my wrist and my thumb. And then I could do the same thing with the other 2 fingers and just very slowly chunking it until I get all the way up to that nice F major bar chord. Now the next tip is taken from Peak. It's one of the principles of deliberate practicing. And it's essentially making sure you're always working outside of your comfort zone when you're practicing music. Now, it's called the comfort zone for a reason, so this is going to be a little uncomfortable, but essentially all it means is once you get something in a piece of music and you're comfortable there, don't stay there. Move on, bring the tempo up 5 BPM, move on to the next bar. Just constantly keep pushing yourself. Get out of that comfort zone. We don't want to stay in the comfort zone for too long. Deliberate practice is so important. And this is one of the most important principles of deliberate practicing. You can't just stay where you're comfortable for too long because you're not going to grow there. In order to truly get better at the piece of repertoire that you are trying to learn, you have to always be striving to get past your comfort zone. The second something is comfortable, you're moving on. So, the Little Book of Talent talks a fair bit about embracing repetition. And so these are kind of 2 tips tied into one. The first thing is to embrace repetition. And the next tip, also taken from the Little Book of Talent, is to practice for 5 minutes a day rather than an entire hour once a week. Your brain loves repetition. We love building that myelination in the brain. So your brain, you're going to get better at something the more you repeat it. So if I'm repeating something for 5 minutes a day, regularly, 7 days a week, versus an entire hour once a week, that myelination is going to grow so much better at 5 minutes a day compared to 1 hour a week. Your brain loves repetition, and you have to get comfortable repeating something and practicing, even if it's just in small bursts. Practicing something and repeating it frequently is so much more beneficial than just sort of moving it off to the side and only practicing it once in a while, even if it's for a long period of time. So in Daniel Coyle's The Talent Code, he talks a fair bit about deliberate practicing. And there's certain principles, but I'm going to talk about the principle known as learning to feel it. So when you're practicing music, since we're doing things with our hands and we're also listening with our ears, we have to be able to feel and hear when something's going wrong. You have to develop that ear and that sense to know when something's going wrong. When you have a wrong note or a wrong rhythm or a wrong chord, quite frankly, it should bother you. You should be able to feel what happened, what went wrong. You have to build up the skill so that you can feel what's happening. So for an example, if I'm playing an F major bar chord, okay, and I don't have my fingers at the front of the fret, it's not going to sound very good versus compared to if I have my fingers at the front of the fret. I know my fingers are supposed to be at the front of the fret. I've practiced it so much that I can feel that. I can feel when my fingers are in the right spot at the front of the fret. I know that's going to give me the best sound. So if I don't have my fingers at the front of the fret and they're back here, I know it's not going to sound as good. I know I might get a more muted sound, and it should bother you. You have to learn to feel and hear, in the context of music, what's right, what's wrong, and to recognize your mistakes. One of the things that our instructor, Chrissy Keach, talked about in one of the first classes was the concept behind motivation. And this was further tied in when we had Christy Hodder from the Suzuki School in Halifax come talk to the class when she talked about your why. So when we're practicing music, we really need to find a why as to why we're doing it. If I'm just playing guitar just because I want to look cool, it's not a very good reason to play guitar. If I want to get better at guitar because I want to be a successful music therapist so I can help heal people, that's a much better goal. That's what we call an intrinsic goal. So an intrinsic goal is something that is motivated for yourself, something that inside you. The motivation stems from something that's inside you or value you have. Intrinsic is a more sort of solid way of motivating yourself and ensuring future success. There's also extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic focuses on sort of rewards or sort of things outside yourself, like grades or getting a prize or something. And while those can be good motivators, ultimately intrinsic motivation within yourself, is a far better way of motivating yourself and ensuring future success in music. Christy Hodder refers to this as your why. You have to have a why as to why you are practicing music. It can't just be, oh, I want to get rich and famous, or like, I want to get this reward. You have to have an intrinsic why as to why you're doing this, why you're practicing, why you're putting in the thousands and thousands of hours of work to get better at music. So a personal tip of mine, and I did bring this up in class a couple times, for a practice session, always end with something you enjoy or something you find fun. Practicing music can be really, really hard. It can be very grueling. It can be very draining. It can be really, frankly, not fun at times. And when you're practicing, you're in a room by yourself, you're working on getting better at something, sometimes it might not work out. Sometimes we might feel bad about ourselves at the end of a practice session. And that's why I think it's so important to end a practice session. Take 5-10 minutes at the end of a practice session, even 2 minutes, 30 seconds, just some time to do something that you really, really enjoy on your instrument. That helps reinforce that music can be fun and why you're doing this. For me, I love improvising. I love improvising. I love improvising within forms, with like very free. It's really, really motivating for me. I really have grown to love improvising ever since I took Jeff Tober's improvisation in the creative process class last semester. So I always try and end my practice sessions with a little bit of improvisation. Sometimes I might give myself a specific form, say, oh, let's improvise an E blues. Or sometimes it's just free and I'll just play whatever I want. Sometimes I might improvise on a pentatonic scale. But sometimes I'll literally just play whatever the heck I want to. And that's something that I find joy in. That's something I really love doing. And that reinforces that music is ultimately fun. And you should enjoy it because we don't always enjoy practicing. So it's so important to keep your motivation. It's so important to always end your practice session with something you love. Find something you love on the context of your instrument and always end your practice session with it. It could be a song, it could be improvising, it could be humming something if you're a singer. It's just find something that you really, really enjoy and always take some time to end your practice session with it.